Hello, this is Group 2. I'm Kevin, and here with my teammates, Marita and Joseph, we're going to demonstrate our final project for this course. So we have a single Docker Compose YAML file for both part 2 and part 3. So we're going to demonstrate them together. So first we'll go over the Docker Compose file here. So as you can see, we've defined a couple of services here. The first one is the GitLab service, which we call the web service. And then we have a service for SonarQube. We have a service for the GitLab runner. We have a service for the container registry, and another service for the Jenkins CI pipeline. So just to show you guys that everything is working, we'll demonstrate. So first I'll bring everything down. And then, as you can see, we just with a single command, the whole pipeline, the whole infrastructure is shut down. And then if we do docker compose up -d, it will create these container images and we will start running them as we speak. Then we can inspect their status. So we'll first go over the steps that we did for part 2. We actually have a note here, which contains very detailed instructions on how we completed them. So first, for the SonarQube integration, we first set up the GitLab runner. This is all well documented from the GitLab's official website. So basically, we just create a new project. We run this command. We register the runner with this settings. So here, since everything is in Docker, for them to be able to communicate with each other, we're using the service's name instead of an actual host name. So after all this setup, we need to add an extra line here to allow the GitLab runner to actually pick up the jobs and communicate to other services on the network. So after you set up the GitLab runner, it should look like this. If you go to GitLab CI/CD, expand it, so this is our GitLab runner. So that's what it looks like. And we had to check this box because we didn't set any tags. All right. And then the next step would be integrate SonarQube. So we actually learned later in the project that we don't need to use the SonarQube plugin, and the version of SonarQube that we installed actually has the ability to be integrated to GitLab completely without the plugin. So here we're gonna show you that since we brought it down and up again, we'll do a login here. Okay, so as you can see, I've deleted every code here. So you'll see a blank project hooked up here. But when the service is first up, you'll want to configure it as we did in the previous assignment. And then when you create a new project, it will allow you to connect that project to GitLab. And then finally, for the integration, we need to put the correct settings in both GitLab and SonarQube. And then we need to have these files as SonarQube instructed us. So the content of these files are, they would look like, oh, let's see what's wrong there. Still starting. Yeah, this service usually takes the longest to start. So let's give it a second. Right, here we are. So now, just to make sure, we can actually start looking at this. It looks like it's still running. And now it's healthy, right? So now we're sure that this is not some kind of cache file stored in my browser. This is the actual service. All right. Right now you can see the content of these settings files. This is for connecting with SonarQube, and this is for the GitLab runner setup. So here our main branch is called main, so we call it main, and we also set it up for merge requests. So after this, you should be able to see SonarQube step here in your pipeline view. So when we click on that, every time we make a commit or a push, this GitLab runner is going to pick up the job, and then it's going to connect to SonarQube and run everything. And as you can see here, it generated a report. And if we change that to localhost on our host, we will see the report. Right now it has nothing, so it is expected. Next step, we're gonna demonstrate before we upload the code is part 3. So for part 3, we enable the component registry by updating this file in the web services. So basically, if we invest code using the plugin, if we attach the code editor to the web service, we will be able to find this file and then edit it directly. So after this, we will reconfigure GitLab. Then we will set up Jenkins. And as you can see, we set up Jenkins through the Docker Compose file, so it's already there. Similarly, you'll have to go through the setup steps. You have to reset the admin password, et cetera, et cetera. So some of the important stuff here, we need to set the privileged mode to true. We need to set user to root, and we need to forward this volume so the Jenkins app container can run Docker commands. So that's for the Jenkins setup. And then for the registry, so the tutorial from the write-up, so we followed that tutorial, but the registry was still not available to us. So this is what I did. So I made a registry service following the official documentation here. I simply started the service as another standalone service in our Docker containers, and I made it on the same ports that we want for other services. So once that's done, we were able to see this tab on this container registry tab on GitLab. And when we click into it, we are able to see a list of commands that we can use to pull, build, or push from this container registry. All right, so once that's all set up, it's time to show you our Jenkins pipeline. So first, the most important part of this is Jenkins plugins. So here are the plugins that we use that was necessary for this to run. So the first one was Docker Pipeline, then the pipeline plugin. So this allows us to write different, to execute different Docker commands, shell commands, and of course the GitHub integration is set up by default. So this allows us to pull the code, build a container image, push to the registry, et cetera, et cetera. Another plugin that we used was the Node.js plugin. So basically we couldn't got the Snake plugin to work. The service is set up in the container, but the container was not able to run the snake command. And I was guessing that it's because the Jenkins container switched to a newer version. The older version I checked did have the same command, but the newer version did not have it. So what I ended up doing was I installed the Node.js plugin and I manually install the sync package from a global setting, which I'll show later. And then the final step is text finder. This allows us to search from the console output and then do different things based on those output. So these are the plugins. Then there are some settings with these plugins. So in global tool configuration, like I mentioned, for Node.js plugin, we set the Node.js to this version, and we say every time you use Node.js, you want to install sync as a global package. And same for Docker, we have Docker installation here. And this plugin is basically not used, but we still did it. Okay, and then back to the pipeline. Once all that is configured up, you want to configure a pipeline job here, which is connected to GitLab. For the pipeline job, we made a trigger on push events, on merge request, and on approve merge request comments, a bunch of stuff. And then here's the most important part, the Jenkins file. So I'll go over this Jenkins file very quickly. Basically, we have a GitLab connection and we have a 3-step build stage. First step is build. Here we list out a couple of informations. We clone the repository. We remove any residual build from the previous CI runner, and that's it. We don't actually build a project, but as you can imagine, if so for example, this project is a Node.js project. If you want to build it, you would simply run npm, something like that. So here we just don't do anything, so this job will always succeed unless git clone went wrong. And then the next step is container. So in this step, we execute a couple of shell scripts. First, we go into the repository that we pulled. We log into the remote registry using our authentication information. And then we build the image from that repository. And then finally, we push that to update the image. Final step is running a sync scan. Here, you can you notice that we're running this in a Node.js environment, so we have that sync command. And then we run a sync auth to authenticate ourselves, and then we run the sync container test, which runs the sync test on container images. And this is the container images that we just built. Finally, since we only want to fail the job on high and critical, actually this should be critical. On high and critical severity vulnerabilities, we use this plugin to find the related output, and if any of the output matches this regular expression, we will fail the job.